Welcome to the Ask Ken show. This is your show where you get to tune in, you get to call in, you get to type in, and you get to send your messages that I will live channel. So I'm super excited. Kevin Hughes of Cavalli Channeling is going to be hosting me. And come on, Kevin, come join us. Hello, Kevin. I thought you were waving at all your channeling certificates behind there. You like this one?
It's
Woo,
all
look at
them.
all this.
It's all them right there.
Yeah, Kevin is awesome enough to have taken my channeling workshops, which I do full certification workshops. They're tons of fun, and he's rocking his readings and his business right now. And the way that this show works, if Kevin wants to take over, go ahead and explain that the way that this works.
This is, as Ken said, this is your show. So you get to ask the questions. I will kind of moderate the questions. Make sure we keep them generic. We're not doing mini readings today, even though we should make Ken do mini readings, but we won't. Look, did you see that look? That was that look. But yeah, ask Ken pretty much any question about spirituality. He channels the answers, and we go from there. So when you tune in, as you're tuning in, please let us know where you're from. We love to give a shout out to your hometown. That would be awesome. We have a
Yeah.
list of questions, Ken, that we had from previous shows. I'm just kind of scanning them. Let's do this one. I don't think we've had this one yet. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did we do the identical twin?
Just ask the question. What's the full
Just
question?
ask the
Let's
question.
jump into it. Feels good. Feels good.
It
I love it.
feels good. Do identical twins have the same soul?
Ooh, yes. The answer is no. However, they can have similar, of course, DNA. And they can also have some Akashic record stuff happening there. So the way that works is um, when identical twins are basically while they're in, during inception period, when they come into the womb, they can actually have very common threads in their Akashic records, contracts, deals, and agreements. Not always, but most of the time, there's quite a bit going on there where they will live out their childhood together and maybe even into their adulthood and other things. And they might also have very similar contracts with like which parents they choose, what part of the planet they choose, their life paths, things like that. Yeah, it's actually a really great question, Kevin. A lot of people think that because you know when because they're identical twins, so people have a concept out there where they think that sometimes twins could be of the same soul. That's simply not the case. Each individual, no matter who they are, has their own unique individual soul, and they've lived that.
Oh, I'm not sure if Ken has frozen. Oh, there you are. You
Am I
froze
back?
there for a second, young fella.
Yeah, I'm back. Okay, so each individual twin has their own soul, and they've lived many past lifetimes. And then the other twin has also had many past lifetimes as well. However, in this lifetime, they've chosen to basically grow up together and be siblings. And this could be whether or not they're just like kind of like your brother or sister, if you have one, you've chosen to basically grow up together and live together and have the same parents. So have they. The only difference, really, on a soul level, is that they've chosen to do it at the same time. So basically, be born at relatively the same time, hence the word twins. But I wouldn't read too much into it as to do they have the same soul on a like genetics level. Yes, they have identical genes, identical twins. And I've grown up with twins. They were like my best friends growing up in high school and junior high, and you could totally tell the totally completely different personality between them. They looked physically the same, and it was really hard to tell. You had to, even me as being like their best friend, I constantly got them mixed up. I don't know if you ever had that, Kevin, but anyways, but their
Yes, I actually went to
personalities
school
are
with
completely
with
different.
identical twins.
Yeah, and it's because they have different souls, and in their soul contains the different like personality traits and characteristics and attributes and things like that. And then also like characteristics can also come from previous lifetimes into this lifetime that might be more in play than the other one. And then the other thing that could happen is sometimes you may know this with your brothers or sisters is that you two may have had the same childhood, but you two both view it totally different, completely different than the other person, or have dealt with it differently. Some people think, oh yeah, it's great, it's fine, I have nothing to worry about. But other people might be like, oh no, mom was a jerk or dad was a jerk or whatever this circumstance happened, and they hold a lot more of that baggage. A lot of that can happen because of how they deal and process things. And again, a lot of that could have to do with past.
Makes sense. Here's a great question that came in. Do my spirit guides have a timeline? I'm going to kind of generalize that again. Are they on the same timeline as we are?
I think the context of this question in this circumstances, some people want to know, like, do they have an expiry date? Do my spirit guides
Oh, okay, yeah,
ever, right? Do they have like a certain time limit? And the answer is no.
yeah,
Um, there's so many variations on this. So you could have a spirit guide that's with you for an entire season of your life, or your entire life, or just a season of your life. So, and those seasons can vary, and different spirit guides could be with you throughout multiple seasons of your life, and other spirit guides could be with you for basically just a short period. Um, Usually not less than a few weeks. Usually it's like months or years
yeah.
minimum. But I've seen people where they've had spirit guides basically almost from childbirth into their present moment, and they're in their 40s or 60s or whatever it is. But your spirit guides can change. What I don't want people to think is like, oh, it's an exact science and my spirit guides, oh, time's up, they're leaving. No, it's not. It doesn't work that way.
It's like, oh, sorry, got to punch out.
Yeah, yeah. Clock.
What did I picture? What did I picture there?
I'm Kevin's spirit guide. I'm punching out early.
I'm picturing Coyote and Roadrunner. You ever see that one where they punch out and then they're
Yeah.
best friends?
Yeah.
These are all questions that have come in when we're offline. If you're listening and you have a question, just type it in to whatever chat you listen to it, whether it be Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. They will show up, and I will get to them. Also, let us know where you're tuning in from. We always like to know who's watching, so you can say hi. What are the 3 things I can do to improve my channeling abilities?
So one of the things that I recommend is definitely like grounding, work on like just totally like practice this on a regular daily basis, grounding, being centered, channel using source energy, three things that are really important. So what this means is Sound center channel using source energy, a technique, a strategy that I've included in my channeling level 1 certification workshop. That's my full weekend workshop. Starting out there, because I have many levels of channeling certification workshops. Starting out there is the foundation. The reason why these 3 things is it helps you to be in a conducive state to channel. So when I talk about grounding, a lot of people don't know this, but there's actually 2 different ways to ground. One is through your root chakra, where you imagine like a cord going out of your root chakra down into the earth, really, really deep, and then it wrapping around the core of the earth and then making it nice and taut, nice and tight. And that's one way to ground. And then another way to ground is to actually imagine like roots coming out of your feet and going deep, deep, deep down into the earth and just anchoring nice and solid. And the reason why you want to ground is because the more you're grounded, the higher you can fly, the more you can do this higher level channeling, higher level spirituality. Um, it doesn't matter either whether you are physically on the ground. Like some people think, oh, the only way I can ground is to go outside. And don't get me wrong, I love that, going barefoot. Wintertime kind of sucks here in this part of the
You
world,
think?
but a little bit cold. But what you can do is you can do it that way, and I love doing that when it's appropriate temperature and all that stuff. But you don't have to. You can be sitting in your in your house, and you could be on a different floor. You can be in a skyscraper at work. And you can still, even you could be sitting cross-legged, and then as you sit cross-legged, just imagine the roots coming out and going deep into the earth and planting. So you can ground really anywhere, anytime. And literally, there's an exercise that I could take you through where I'll have somebody try to lift you, and then they'll be like, okay, this person weighs, X amount of pounds, or I could feel like that they weigh a certain amount, and then I'll have you ground like as solid as you can, and they're like, oh, like they could barely lift you. You're just so much more grounded. So that's it actually does have a real world effect, and that's what we want to do. We want to be grounded and of the earth, meanwhile rocking spirituality, like rocking it, doing amazing with spirituality while we're anchored and living this awesome earthly life. The other one is the next one that I recommend is called centering. And that's what you do is you gather all your energy from the past and you bring it to the present. You gather all your energy from the future and you bring it to the present, and you center yourself. So you bring yourself present moment centered. And then the reason why is because when you're channeling, you want to be in the present. You want to be moment, like right now. That's where your guides want you to be, so that you can get the answers live, like what I'm doing right now, live channeling. I have to be present moment right now. And then the third thing that you want to be is you want to channel what's called using source energy. So you want to draw this energy in, bring it into your chakras, and then breathe it in and really just feel it through all your chakras, so that this way you're not using your own chi energy where you could get tired. It's kind of like a battery, and that battery drains over time. But if you can use source energy while you're doing this, then what happens is it just allows you to like access unlimited amount of energy, and you could channel all the time, anywhere, all the time, and never be tired or worn out from channeling because you're not using your own battery energy. So what I'm going to get you to do right now, everyone, if you're watching this, I'm going to get you to take a
Oh, and just as he did that, he froze. I'm hoping everybody can still hear us. I'll wait till see if we can get Ken back. I'm hoping he comes back. Until then, let's hope if I guess we could say hi to Mike and Sue. Mike, you're out of the hospital. That is good to know. Very, very good to know. Sue from White Rock. That I'm glad you guys are tuning in. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I'm working with Ken here, trying to see where. No, he's still frozen. I'm hoping if you can hear me, can you let me know? Please let me know if you can hear me. Oh, there he is. We'll bring Ken back on. Oh, and he disappeared again. We're having technical difficulties. You always got to love technical difficulties. So apparently we're not really, I don't know what's going on tonight. Seems to be that we are live. Good, Dennis, you can hear me. Thank you. Thank you, Dennis. I'm glad you're able to hear us. I'm just waiting for Ken to come back on. Something happened with Ken's internet, so I'm hoping he pops back on soon. Just kind of, if you wonder what I'm doing, I'm just looking down at my phone. I'm going to be texting Ken here. See where he went. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. Type in your questions into your chat. As soon as Ken gets back, we will see about him answering your questions. You know, you're going to love technology. You get all set up, you think you got everything working, and then boom. We're so reliant on technology nowadays. It's amazing how everything works. Oh, hold on. I think we might have, look at that. We have Mr. Ken back.
Woo! I'm
Woo!
back. I
You're
had to
back.
enter and then come back in. So I'm back. I'm back.
I was just babbling for the last 10 minutes. Or 5
Yeah,
minutes.
that's okay. Actually, it worked out good because there's like take a deep breath, and then you ground center channel using source energy. No big deal. It's all
As
good.
soon as you said that last time, literally you said, okay, let's do this. And you froze.
And this is one of the most powerful techniques because being like the three things you can do, these three things, taking a deep breath and then ground, center, channel using source energy is so important, because when you are in this state, what it does is it allows you to channel your guides at a much deeper level, a much higher level, and also more likely to get accurate answers where you're not influencing the answer, which is really important when channeling. That's like the number one key thing, is not to influence in the answer, not to get yourself out of the way, and just allow yourself to fully be present and get like true authentic answers at a deep level with your spirit guides. So yeah, that's the three things is and you could practice this, and you can use this in any situation. You know, your boss pisses you off or something like that, your manager, your coworker, you know, take a deep breath at work. 3, 2, 1. Nice deep breath, and then ground, center, channel using source energy, and then you check with your guides. How do I handle this situation? How do I handle this person, this difficult
And you know
person, or
what?
whatever it might be.
That actually does work because I've used it. um, as you know, at my work, it can be pretty stressful at times, and if
Yeah.
you don't have to make it a big production, but you can
No.
use that, and it actually works really well.
Yeah, like, I've actually used it in board meetings and other things. We're just sitting around the table having a board meeting, and then somebody says something that, you know, whatever, or then what I do is I'm at the table, alls they know is I'm just taking a deep breath, and I have my
Yeah.
eyes open, I'm having, you know, listening to the conversation, but in the behind the scenes, I'm doing the grounding, centering, channel using source energy technique. So that's one that I've introduced. Please use it if you can. It helps with many situations, with family life, relationships, all sorts of things. Yeah, great
Allison
question.
uses that all the time with me. She just,
Multiple,
I love
multiple,
no,
multiple times a day.
definitely multiple times every hour. Are you kidding me? Um, Here's a great question that came in, and it's something that I'm really. Oh, he froze again. I was just going to ask a great question, and he froze. Oh, there he is.
Am I back? Yay! What's the question?
Is astral traveling dangerous? First,
For the most
let's explain what astral traveling is for everybody who doesn't know.
Yeah, so we've all done it. Have you ever heard of out of body experience? Out of body experience and astral traveling are really the same thing. It's basically what you're doing is you are leaving your body and then you are traveling around. So the way that you do this actually is a great technique is you can lay down, let's say on a bed or a couch or something like that, or even on the floor, and you just lay there and you purposely allow your soul body, your basically your non-physical body, to leave your physical body, so you allow it to vibrate out. And then when you do this, you can go and you could, you know, you could fly around, you could go through walls, you could look at the molecules, you can and you have what's called like a silver tether, or like a cord that attaches your non-physical body to your physical body. So at any time, don't be afraid. At any time, if you want to come back from astral traveling, you just think of your body and you'll snap right back in. No big deal. The only caution that I have with this is that you only focus on the light. You focus on doing positive things in the light. You go to positive places. If you go and start to, when you're astral traveling, if you do start to dabble into, like, you know, dark places, then you can get yourself in trouble. So I highly recommend just stay away from anything like that. But otherwise, it's safe. It's fine. Practice it, play with it, try it. Write me in your experiences. I would love to hear from you. It's totally fine. So astral traveling is actually the same thing as dream walking. Have you ever had a dream where you felt like you were actually living it and you were like conversing with people and all that? Chances are that's what's called dream walking. So you're not actually dreaming. You're actually not there. And there's a difference. There's a complete difference between being in a dream and then dream walking. When you're in a dream, sometimes dreams just happen. And don't get me wrong, you can have very similar situations in dreams where it feels like you're dream walking, but you're not. You're actually just dreaming. But there's other times when you're like, no, I know I've been out of my body. I've been, and so dream walking is basically the same thing as astral traveling while you're in a dream state. And I know for me, like, this happens frequently. I wouldn't say like every night, but most nights, a lot of nights. And I'll be like, bouncing off the rooftops of my neighbors, and then I'll like fly up into the sky, and I'll be like doing all these really cool things while I'm dream walking or astral traveling. And a really cool tip. You ready for this one? A really
Yeah.
cool tip is in your dreams, while you're dream walking, what you want to do is you want to try to get to a point where you are fully aware of your dreams, you're in control of your dreams, and you're watching what you're doing, and you're paying attention to what you're doing. And this way you can actually control them. And if, let's say, for example, you run into somebody, instead of going, oh, they're over there, just, and then you just bypass them. No, you can stop and talk to them. Most often, more times than not, it's actually your spirit guides that you're talking to. So you can have a full blown conversation with them. You can pick their brain, ask them questions, all that. And you could even do this while you're astral traveling as well, which is super cool. So play with this stuff. Like it is fun. It is. So the question is it dangerous? For the most part, no. Just operate in the light. You'll be fine. Try it. But otherwise, just stay away from anything that's not of the light.
So I'm just going to touch base on a couple different things you said there with astral traveling. Um, can you, when you astral travel, can you go back to the astral realm?
Yep. Yeah.
And
And we
can
often do.
you visit with loved ones that are there?
Yes, and we often do. Have you ever had a dream where that loved one was in your dream, even though
Oh,
they're on the other side and crossed over?
regular basis.
Yeah, exactly. Not every single time. Sometimes it could be just. So let me clarify. Sometimes dreams are just dreams. Like we're talking
Yes.
authentic dreams here. Like we're not talking about dream walking. We're talking about dreams. Sometimes everyone, a lot of people in the spirituality community, they like to make meaning behind everything. Like everything has a meaning, and I had this dream, so it must have. Sometimes it's just your body or your psyche or your mind trying to figure things out and work through certain situations, and that person will appear in your dream. Sometimes the person that appears in your dream is not actually anything to do with that. Sometimes it is to do with
Yeah,
that person, but oftentimes it's not. Sometimes it's just that person is in your psyche filling in that position, that role, so you can work through the stuff that you're trying to work through on a subconscious level.
that makes
Okay.
sense.
However, sometimes this is called dream walking now. This is what we're going into. Is sometimes when you are sleeping, you'll astral travel, dream walking. You'll astral travel to the astral realm, and you'll go and converse with your loved ones, deceased loved ones who are on the other side, and have a full blown conversation with them. Have like lots of like fellowship with them, maybe some tears. Have you ever, I've woken up and I'm like all wet, like my eyes are all wet and all that from tearing up from the conversation I had with like my dad or something like that. So it can be pretty emotional, and it can also be fun and light as well, in a good positive way. But it's good. And if you are, the bigger thing though is, can you try to be aware of your dreams and know when you're dream walking and you're in the astral realm and you're conversing with your family, your soul family, or just loved ones on the other side? And can you be intentional about what you're doing, how you're interacting, what you, and all that stuff? So play with it, have fun. Great follow-up question. Thank you, Kevin.
You're welcome. Another one that came in through the week. How do you tune into a pet to find out what's going on with them? I'm going to take that alive. This is a living pet.
Yes. So I teach both, I teach animal communication, where I'll teach you to channel both living pets and deceased pets, which is really cool, really beautiful. It's a lot of fun. So, um, the way that you do this is, and if you have a pet right now and you're watching, feel free to follow along. Is what you do is close your eyes. So, again, if you're watching, you can do this live with me. I'll walk you through the process. You can also take notes on this. I'm more than welcome. Happy. I'm one of those teachers that I don't hide anything that I teach. I like to teach everything and have you guys do it and learn it, master it. So, what you can do with your pet, or if you don't have a pet and you're watching this, you can do it with like a friend or a family member's pet. So practice this. So what you can do is go ahead and close your eyes. So let's all do this together. And then what you do is, before you go barging into your pet, you just observe them from a distance. And the reason why is because animals tend to be a lot more sensitive than humans. And if you go barging in too quickly, you might jar them. So then what you do is you just observe them from a distance, and then you slowly go in, nice and slow, as you're psychically going closer to them. and spiritually going close to them. So go ahead and do this now. Good. And then as you are connecting with your pet, now that you're nice and close, you can feel into their soul. So go ahead and do this and increase your connection with the pet's soul. And then now what you can do is start to ask your pet what's going on with them. Like, like maybe they have stomach or digestive issues, stuff like that. And you can ask them these questions, or maybe they have a pain or ache, or maybe you don't even know. Maybe you think they're fine, and they might divulge or enlighten you on something that you didn't actually know of. And it's not just physical stuff either. It could be emotional stuff, supportive stuff, like, I want to go out more, I want more walks, or I want more play, or something like that, more pets, all sorts of things like that. So you can really go in deep, trust the answers you're getting, and try to work on increasing your connection, getting yourself out of the way, and just trying to get the messages from your pet. And
Goosebumps.
I know I could feel. I, were you doing it with your pet, Kevin?
Yeah. Yes, I was.
No,
Which pet was I doing it with, though?
pet. Well, well, I was like, it was Bella, your current
It was
dog.
Bella.
Yeah,
Yes, it's Bella.
yeah. You two have an amazing connection, and
We do.
so um, then what you do is, as you're doing this, um, your pet doesn't always know everything, and just because, kind of like a child, just because they think they know what's best for them, that doesn't mean that's the case. So like, you might take a toddler and they just want candy for supper every single night. Well, okay, just because that's what the kid wants doesn't mean that's good and healthy for them. So a dog, for example, dog treats all the time, but that doesn't necessarily mean
Nope.
that's good and healthy for them. Yeah, exactly. Nope. So sometimes, as the adult, or as the owner or guardian of the pet, you have to make a decision that's best for the pet, even if it's over and above what they think is best for them, because sometimes they don't have that other bigger picture. And then with more advanced channeling techniques, which I do teach in my full animal certification workshop, I will teach my students how to connect with the pet's spirit guides, and then on and on and on and on. There's a bunch more factors. How to use your guides, how to do medical mediumship, how to do stuff like lineage and ancestry, and past life stuff with the pet, and on and on and on. We just keep going, and then also
That
how
is
to
so
do really
cool.
cool healing stuff. Yeah, healing modalities and healing techniques. So it's wild. That's advanced stuff.
Oh, here's a great question, and I'm gonna. It comes in from Mike out in White Rock, who, when you were uh,
Astral
disconnected,
traveling.
he had let us know. I don't know if you knew that Mike ended up in hospital last week. He had a bit of I believe it was a heart attack, but he sounds like he's doing better.
Good.
And this question goes along with this. Why does why do people smell burnt toast sometimes? In his case, he's like, why does Sue smell burnt toast all the time? But in general, smells, where do they come from when it's not obvious?
Yeah, and thank you. It's not always burnt toast. So let me clarify this: is our our smell is the strongest anchor of all our senses. What I mean by that is a memory anchor is the word I'm looking for. Memory anchor. So when if you think back to childhood, and you think back when you were a kid and you had like a pleasant memory, think back to a time when you might be, time you were at the pool as a kid, and in the summertime, and you smell that chlorine, maybe you could smell that, or maybe your loved one's perfume or cologne, something like that. Like that is our
Yes.
smell is the strongest of all the memory anchors that we have. So oftentimes, when a spirit in spirit form is trying to get your attention, they will use what's called clairalience or clairalience, depending on how you say it, as that's the smelling one, as that anchor to click in and give you that, hey, I'm here, I'm trying to get your attention. And then there's other times where, in this case, what she's actually doing is getting a message from her guides or his soul, or other ways, other sources, rather than just her family or her loved ones or things like that, but actually the other person or the other person's spirit guides in this case. So they will use that to try to get her attention. And burnt toast is a very distinct, unique way to someone's like, oh, what's that? And then because when you think the toast is on fire, you're
Raise
going to
your
go
arm.
running there. Yeah, it's like the emergency things kick in. It's not because there's an emergency or there's anything urgent. They're just trying to get your attention, but it can be urgent as well too. So
Exactly.
yeah,
It's funny because my brother, who passed away in 2009, he was a heavy smoker. So
right.
every time he comes in, I smell that, and it's very distinctive export A cigarette smell.
Yes.
Which is, if you ever smoke, it's a very distinct smell. With my mom, I bought her a bottle of perfume from Avon probably when I was like 9 or 10. The thing
Right.
was, I'm not kidding, it was probably about that big and about that wide. It had enough perfume in it probably to last her till she was 95 when she crossed over. She makes me smell it. And I got to tell you, it's the most disgusting smell you've ever tried.
But it gets your attention.
It gets my attention.
Yeah, and that's
Deb
why they do
was
it.
Deb Farkash was asking what kinds of questions I can ask. Do you want to handle that one, Ken?
Yeah,
What
so
kind
this
of
is called the
questions
Ask
do you
Ken
want?
Show. Thank you, Deb. First of all, Deb, where are you from? Send a message. Anyone else watching, just go ahead and mention your name and where you're from, and we will give you a shout out because we like to acknowledge our audience and just thank them for tuning in. And the way that the Ask Ken Show works is that anything spiritual you can ask. So not necessarily about yourself, like, do you see me with a guy in the next year or a new guy, a new job, all that kind of stuff. It's more about general spiritual questions like, how does the astral realm work? How does the soul family work? Things like on a spiritual level, like anything you could think of, spiritual stuff, spiritual topics, channeling topics, you name it. It's all fair game. Even if you want to know stuff about me, that's also fair game. Things like that. So yeah, great
Very
question.
cool. Here's a great question, and I got this. Ken and I did a expo together. I was Ken's assistant at his table, and I
Thank you,
had a
Kevin.
lot of people ask me this question, and I want to hear your answer to it. How do you discern the difference between what's coming from my spirit guides and what's my own stuff?
This question is the number one thing that all my beginner students struggle with is how do I know if it's coming from me or my spirit guides? And so what I've done is purposely created activity after activity after activity through all four of my channeling certification workshops that address this specific issue, this specific challenge. And the reason why I do this is because in my early days, I was struggled with this for at least 10 to 12 years in those first early days where I didn't know the difference. I'm like, am I making this up? Is it just me? Is it coming from me? Is it coming from my guides? So the way that you do this, it's there's many different ways, and I'll tell you one of them is what you do is you practice it, like again the ground center channel using source energy technique I taught you earlier, where you get yourself in a nice conducive state to channel. And then what you do is you call in your guide, you find out where they are physically around you, you trust where they are. And the reason why I have them do this is because you want to know where they are physically in your room. And if we had the highly sensitive camera systems that they have now, they actually have this technology. It's really cool. You might have seen them on like those ghost hunter kind of shows. We could set up highly sensitive camera systems in your room, and we could actually physically capture your spirit guides in your room, which is really neat. And so you want to focus on where they are physically in your room because that gives you a focal point, and rather than your mind just kind of wandering aimlessly wherever around the room, no, you focus on where they are in the room, and then that's your focal point. And then what you do is you practice um, different ways of communicating with them. So what's called the clair techniques. So you practice, sensing them and feeling their emotions. That's called clairsentient. You practice working with getting different images from the spirit guide. That's called clairvoyant. You're clear seeing in your mind's eye. You practice on hearing their voice. That's called clairaudient. You practice working on clair smelling. We talked about just briefly now, just recently, about the what do they smell like, how do you know like that's them when you smell them, what's their taste like for this specific guide, any messages they give you through taste, through smell, through any of these other clairs. And you keep practicing, and as you keep practicing, you'll very distinctly be able to discern the difference between your stuff and what's coming from your guides, and your stuff and what's coming from your guides, and your stuff and what's coming from your guides. And as you practice, that gap will widen. And then as you go through more formal training and you get more professional training, like what I offer in my workshops, then you'll be able to, by the time you're done, like the third and fourth levels, you will for sure know when it's coming from your spirit guides and when it's coming from you, because that gap will be so wide. It'll be like, oh no, I know when it's coming from this guide because of this, or this. Meanwhile, I know when it's coming from this other guide because of this, and this. And it's totally different than my own thoughts, than my own feelings, than my own stuff. And it's not a exact science, but with practice you can get really good at making sure that you know for sure when it's coming from your guides and not from you, or if you're influencing the answer, or if you're getting yourself in the way, or which we're all guilty of,
or
even
or
me.
or
But there
or
is lots of cool ways to do it, and just have fun with it. And yeah.
I think the biggest one you just said was practice, just like anything else. If you're gonna be a hockey player, if you want to make the NHL, you don't do it once a week. You do
No.
it every day, all day long. You take
Yeah.
a million shots against your parents' garage door like Wayne Gretzky did, and you become great.
Yeah. One of the things on that though is practicing is really important. Like I tell my students, I say, I'm no different than you and I. Don't worship me. Don't think I'm some great, amazing person. You meet me in person, just give me a hug. Just say, hey, nice to meet you, or whatever. But I'm no one special. The only difference between you and me is that I practiced a lot, and I do.
Yes.
Like I practiced like tens of thousands of hours over the years, and I practice in the evenings and in the mornings. As soon as I wake up in the morning, I start channeling my spirit guides, and I just practice, and that's what I want my students to do, is get really good by practicing, and this will serve you for lifetime. So you put in a little bit of this base practice, like for the first few. It's kind of like writing. Is when you start
Yes.
writing as a kid, you start learning, okay, this is the way you do an A, this is
Yes.
the way you do an S. This is the way you do a Y. And you practice that for many, many years, usually. And then eventually your teacher's like, okay, now let's connect these letters to make a word. And then after over a few, maybe another year or so, they're like, okay, let's start practicing and putting these words into a sentence, and then eventually into a paragraph, and then eventually into an essay where it's many pages long. But that doesn't happen overnight. But once you put in that groundwork and you practice those initial skills, you have it for life. And that's with
Yes.
channeling. Very similar concept, is you practice and put in a bunch of time in the beginning stages for the first few years. Like within a year or two, if you practice this really good and you take formal training and you do the techniques that I teach and suggest outside of the classes, yes, in the classes, but outside of the classes as well, you will get very proficient in this, and then you'll be off to the races within no time. And a couple of years is no time in the big scheme of things.
Exactly. Always good to have a good coach for
Yes.
anything you do. So Deb Farkash from Loch St. Anne, Loch St. Anne County in Alberta.
Ooh.
She has a question. My late dad, I believe, sends me songs that were his favorite and sometimes turns out a light in my house. So I'm going to kind of generalize that question. Can a soul that has crossed over come back and affect your surroundings?
Yes, absolutely, and they could do this in a number of ways. So, if a great movie, if you've never watched it, it's a classic now. It's called Ghost with Patrick Swayze, and if you watch that, I know, right? If you watch that movie, he's trying to move like a penny. He's like, "Come on, I'm trying to move this penny," and he's like struggling to do it, because it's actually really hard for a spirit in spirit form on the other side to manipulate the physical world. People think, "Oh yeah,
They
they could
don't
do
have
anything."
fingers.
Some are better at it. Yeah, some are better at it than others. And if you watch that movie, he's like yelling at people, trying to get their attention, and they're just oblivious to him. They don't even pay attention. They just walk right by. Because again, most incarnated humans, we're just oblivious. But when you are more aware and you're paying attention, you'll watch these things. So oftentimes, because we're not aware, our spirit guides or loved ones will use other means to try to get our attention, like moving a penny, or moving a pencil, or flickering the lights like electronics, or bringing things to our awareness, like look left and then you see a sign or something like that, or repetition kind of things, like leaving like dimes on the you're finding dimes everywhere. Or I'm just making stuff up, but like there's like a
Yeah.
zillion examples of how your spirit guides or loved ones can try to get your attention. So what I encourage my students to do is to not ignore those anymore, but actually go, oh, okay, is that a spirit guide? Is that a loved one? And then if so, stop what you're doing. If you can, stop what you're doing, take a deep breath. Again, ground center channel using source energy, and then go ahead and increase your connection with this loved one or spirit guide, and then see what messages they might have for you and so on, rather than just being like, oh, I see a bunch of dimes, but I think it's my loved one, but I don't know where to go from there. No, that's the next step. They're trying to get your
Yes.
attention. Now that they've got your attention,
Listen.
take it further, yeah, and listen and go further with it.
So just because you brought it up on with the last question, I am going to touch on something, and I want your answer to it. You had brought up if you ever watch one of those ghost shows on TV and they had cameras and whatnot. There's a new show on TV. I forget what channel it's on. It's called Kindred Spirit, which has ghost hunters, I'll say, and then they use Chip Coffey. Do you know who Chip Coffey is? Famous, renowned psychic medium.
Yeah. Okay.
So, in the episode that just was on last week, they insinuated, they didn't come out and say it, but they insinuated that doing any kind of channeling work is inherently dangerous. How would you answer that if someone told you that?
The short answer is no. We all
Thank you.
channel. Every single human being that's incarnated on this planet channels, whether they know it or not, whether it's conscious or not. We all channel. Have you ever, all of a sudden you said something to somebody and they're like, wow, that's so profound, or how did you know that, or wow, that's so amazing, I was just thinking about that. It's because you channeled that answer. Like, we've
Yes.
all done it. Or have you ever had someone say something like that to you and they don't even know how there's no way they could have possibly, it's because they channeled that answer to you. So we all channel. We all channel our spirit guides, even if we know it or not. What I teach people to do is how to do it intentionally, and how to make sure you're doing it in the light and working in the light and operating in the light, so that you don't do anything that could be potentially dangerous. So I don't disagree that it could be potentially dangerous. And that's why I do recommend formal training, because what happened with me in my early days, I had nobody like me to help me through my early days of my spiritual awakening. So I was inadvertently, not on purpose, but inadvertently channeling things that I shouldn't be. I was like, oh, what's this? I should channel that. Oh, what's that? I should channel that. And next thing I know, I was opening myself up to dark things, not knowing any better, because I just didn't know any better. I didn't have anyone to reach out to teach me how to do it properly and work in the light and make sure I do it safely. So that's why I recommend people take my channeling workshops, so they can make sure they're always doing it in light. So I don't fully disagree. It's just that we all channel already. So why not learn how to do it, making sure that you know what you're doing, and then there's nothing to fear, because when you know what you're doing and you're able to identify things that are of the light and things that are not, then you're empowered to know, okay, I need to stay away from this or not channel that, and I just channel things that are good and healthy for me. And that's a much better way to do it, because you're already channeling anyways. So just learn how to do it properly and within the light. Make sense?
Yes. Totally, totally. And I love the way you say we all channel, because I continuously tell people what I do isn't a gift. It's anybody can do what I do if you
Yeah.
choose to do it.
Yeah.
It's just a matter, you can learn to be a massage therapist. I learned to channel. It's the same difference.
Yeah.
What Here's a great question again that came in. If you're listening and you have a question, we still have about 15 minutes. Go ahead and type your question in. I'll be more than happy to get at it. This one
Actually,
came.
a great analogy, Kevin, is like we all breathe. We all
Yes.
breathe. And what I teach people to do, like it's kind of like breathing intentionally and at much more advanced level unconsciously. But we all do it. We all breathe. Let's just do it. So that's like channeling. We all channel, but a lot of us don't realize or are not aware of how to, like, that we're doing it. And then let's also take it, like, with channeling, you go much more, and breathing as well. There's some really cool, like, breath work and techniques
Oh,
and stuff like that.
yes.
But so yeah, go ahead with your question.
This one came in when we're through the week. What is past life regression?
Yeah, so we've all lived past lives. Every single one of us, we've all had lives like on Earth, or most likely on Earth. my experience has been when I channel and I check, pretty much 99 point whatever percent of all people who are currently incarnated on this planet have incarnated many lifetimes on this planet. Some have
Yeah.
not. They're called star seeds, and they come basically, the where that term star seed comes from is they're a seed from another star system. They come to this planet. They're no different than us, though. They're not anyone special. They're a soul is a soul is a soul. I want to make that very clear. They're not better than us. We're not better than them. None of that stuff. It's just that they've never incarnated on this planet yet until recently, and they've had very few, if not, this might be their first, if not few, incarnations on this planet. And then um, so what past life regression is basically where you walk someone through the process of reliving a past lifetime on this planet. You actually take them through, it's a very specific process that I do in my channeling level 1 workshop, and I do that purposely in level 1 because that's the foundation to a lot of other things that we cover in more advanced stuff that we cover in later workshops. And then what you do is if you want to learn how, if you want to do this, actually what you can do is you can just go somewhere and sit quiet, tune into your soul, which is right in this region here, your solar plexus, just below your solar plexus region. And what you do is you tune into your soul, because that's what the part of you that stores these past lives. And then you allow your soul to take you to a past lifetime on this planet, and you actually go full out experience it. And the good, the bad, the ugly moments of it, what's going on, and why is your soul taking you to this past lifetime. So you don't want to just go back there and go, okay, this is interesting, all that stuff. You want to take it further and ask your soul, okay, why are you taking me to this past lifetime? Like, why? What are you trying to show me? How does it relate to me in this lifetime now? Because often your soul doesn't just randomly take you to any lifetime. It'll take you to a lifetime for a purpose, for a reason, and oftentimes it's many reasons. So what are those reasons? Why is it taking you there? And you ask your soul that. That's right here in your chest area. And then you use that information, and you can use it in many ways. You can use it to heal or clear stuff that's affecting you in this lifetime. You can also use it to draw and bring forth positive things from those past lifetimes into this present lifetime, which is really cool, and empower and enable yourself these positive qualities, traits, attributes. Yeah, so it's really cool. Great
That is
question.
cool. Very cool. It's a cool thing when we as we journey through our spirituality and we learn where we get things from. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and
Um
also we can do past lifetimes on other planets too. That's a whole nother topic, but yeah, it just keeps going and going.
oh my, yeah, we could get right out there. We have 10 minutes left. Um I'm not going to have any more questions from past weeks. If you have a question, if you're listening and you have a question, feel free to type it in. But Ken, um, what is new coming up with Ken? What is Ken up to in the next little bit?
Yeah, so lots of good, exciting news. I am actually heading to Bali, so it's going to be pretty cool, pretty fun. Now, nothing with my business is going to change. Everything's the same. You can book with me. You can attend my workshops, my full certification workshops. I'm still doing the Ask Ken show, all those fun things, doing stuff. It's just broadcasting from a different location. That's all. Some people are like, "Are you still doing this? Are you still doing that?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course." Like, it's just a different location that I'm broadcasting from. And the exciting thing is so I want to make it clear too, is that nothing. Okay, so what we want to do, like, everything has to change it for it to evolve. So like any
Yes.
business that doesn't change, like Kodak, for example, they didn't change with the times. So what did they do? They went out of business. You have to change. Right now my guides are making it very clear, just go to Bali, figure it out from there. So right now nothing's changing. However, some things will, and I don't know yet what it's going to look like or how it's going to be. Things will change with channelinginc.com, my business, because it always does, it always has, it always will. And that's a good thing. It's good for it to evolve and get better and improve and all that. But right now everything's the same. So if you want to book a one-on-one session with me, go to my channelinginc.com website and book a session with me. If you want to attend my workshop, go to my channelinginc.com website and just go ahead and book with me. Book the website or book the workshop, whether it's an intro class or a full certification workshop. But yeah, everything's
When
staying the
is
same.
your next when is your next Channel One workshop coming up?
It's the mid-March.
March 25th and 26th, I believe. It is. I looked. Oh,
26th. Yeah,
you
yeah.
froze again.
So March 25th and 26th, it's all day Saturday, all day Sunday, 9 hours. Um, it's fun, it's interactive, time flies by fast because I have you, it's called experiential training, not lecture style. So I have you do basically exercise after exercise after exercise after exercise the entire weekend long. And it's fun. You get to meet your colleagues and people that are in the same boat as you, like-minded people who you can discuss this stuff with. Yeah, it's really cool.
And for people who think, oh, it's a course on Zoom, I'm going to put my head down and fall asleep as Ken drones on and on. I have taken a ton of online workshops. Trust me when I tell you, when you're in a workshop with Ken, you are actually participating. It's quick, it's fast. You blink your eyes, and all of a sudden it's lunch. Blink your eyes again, and the day's over. Because you're doing. He talks about something, and you actually do it. He talks
Yeah,
about something, and you actually do it. It's
yeah.
very, very cool. Highly, I mean, I can't say enough times how many times I recommend people take Ken's workshops. um, it's
And I love seeing the people like the Kevins who take the stuff that I teach them and they use it in their life right away. They actually apply it, and it makes a life changing. And this isn't like you're
Oh yeah,
I tell my students, it's like, if you want the slow, long, drawn out way of channeling, like learning it, I'm not your person for that. If you want to do it quick and fast and properly and learn these skills really, really fast and just you're off to the races, then I'm your man. Let's do this. Hop on board, buckle up because we're going for a ride, and it's in a few short years, your whole entire life's gonna change for the positive, for the better. Not that it's gonna be perfect or anything, but you can really accelerate your life and enhance it at way higher levels than you could ever imagine. And sometimes people don't know what they don't know. I have so many people that come to me, they're like, "Oh, I already channel," and I'm like, "Yeah, okay, I know you do," and I'm checking psychically, and I'm like, "Yeah, you do." However, a lot of people when they come to me, they're like channeling at this level when they could be channeling at this level or even beyond. And you can do that with formal training, and each workshop comes with a 50 plus page manual, and it's fully comprehensive. So it's like probably the most comprehensive channeling training you'll take anywhere. And as you can tell, I'm really passionate about this because my mission is to make this world a better place by teaching people how to channel and channel at high levels, like really high levels, so they can really do what they're meant to do at this lifetime.
that is so cool. So cool. Also, coming up for Ken, on February 27th, that's the next Monday, Ken is going to be joining my show, Cavelli Channeling Presents, and
Yay!
we're just going to have a discussion. It's people like, well, you have at the Ask Ken show weekly, so you get to ask him all kinds of questions. If you've ever watched my show, it's not a question and answer. It's more of a chat. We'll go dig deep into how Ken got into doing what he is doing, and the find out the story behind Ken Lewicki, which is going to be really cool. So February 27th, 7 p.m. on all the same channels.
7 p.m. Mountain Time. Yeah, and Kevin's
7 p.m. Mountain Time.
an amazing interviewer. This guy, he knows
Aw.
what he's so good, and because he uses channeling, and while he's interviewing people, so he can really take it to much higher levels. Just like I suggest, use channeling for everything, everything, everything.
And it works. It
Yeah.
definitely works.
And we're having a heading to Bali party in Calgary, and it'll also be in person and also online. So feel free to visit my website for information. You'll see it pop up, and just click on the banner with all the details. I would love to see people before I head out, and that'll be tons of fun. Yeah.
It should be it's that is on what day is that?
So that's March 4th on the Saturday from 11 to 2 o'clock in Mountain Time. And you can tune in live if you are away, like outside of town. You can tune in over the internet, over Zoom. The Zoom link is there, but anytime between 12 and 1 o'clock. So right in the middle of when we're meeting. So we'll be
Cool.
eating
I
food in front
am
of you.
going to just pop your link to your channelinginc.com into the chat. So click on it. You can see it. Should I be able to see the live chat? Yes. When you log on to the Zoom, you will be able to see the live chat, and you can private message other people. You can chat with everybody, just like a regular Zoom call. Ken, it's been a pleasure once again. Our next show is going to be unique because it'll be the first time we do this where we are actually going to do it on the 26th of April. But would that not be the 27th of April in Belly?
Are you talking about March?
I went to April. March. It will be March
22nd of
22nd.
April, yeah, of March. No, you haven't
March.
seen
Yeah. It will be March 22nd when I do the show. You will be the morning of the 23rd.
Yes, it will be the next day in Bali at the next Ask Ken show. So yes, I will be.
That'll be
I'll,
unique.
I'll be living ahead of all of you. No, and you guys are welcome to join me. My Australian friends say that to me, like because I have a lot of clients from Australia and that region, and they'll say that, oh, we're just ahead of you guys, further ahead of you Westerners. And I'm
That's
like,
awesome.
actually, not far off from the truth, but okay, sure.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that.
But again, that will be, so everybody knows, it's not April, it's March 22nd, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. You can figure out whatever time frame you're in. I'm hoping Ken figures out what time frame he's going to be in. It's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to that one. Being Bali is the kind of the spirit, I think, from what I've read, I've never been there, but the spiritual center of the world. It's going to be really cool to see the difference in your channeling from now till then. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, so am I.
Excellent, sir. Till then, everybody, have a great evening. We will see you next Monday.